think anything different in terms of an SEC championship. It was going to come down to another tango between Nick Saban and Kirby Smart, two guys that greatly respect each other, that have worked with each other once before, two very incredible programs. So I didn't think anything outside the imagination of it was going to be Alabama and Georgia again. Now, the Iron Bowl did provide us with an iconic moment again. Ed Jordan Hare, and one to which I was able to make it home alive from. But we all kind of knew at the end of the day that it may end up being Nick Saban and Kirby Smart for the sixth time.
Yeah, we will get to the SEC championship game, but yes, I got to keep us right there because that was just too amazing to let go. And I know in this day and age of fast information and we move on to the next thing, that seems like it was 3 months ago at this point. But man, that is historic. And for the second consecutive time, Bama goes to the Plains in a game in which it looked like Auburn had fully nailed down. They pull out a miracle. Bryce Young, 99 yards 2 years ago. Then this time it's 4th and 31 that's going to go down into history. 4th and goal, of course, after the illegal pass past the line of scrimmage, after the missed snap that shot back 18 yards. You're facing that kind of situation, and we can all take shots at the Auburn defensive approach, me included, but we'll focus on what Jalen Milroe and Isaiah Bond pulled off. Perfect throw to the corner, perfect hands catch, gets the feed in, and it's history.
Absolutely. And what's crazy, Mark, they worked on that play throughout the spring. They worked on that play throughout the offseason. So it was something that Nick Saban and Tommy Rees, they knew they could pull out. They knew they had in the arsenal. You just didn't know at what time they would pull it out. And actually, if you go back and you watch that play, Jalen Milroe had three options there. You had Jermaine Burton coming across the back middle portion of the end zone. To the right, if he looks to his right, there is Malik Benson open to the right, but he chose to work Isaiah Bond to that left corner of the end zone. And ironically, it was the left corner, because if you go back and you watch Alabama in spring practice, it was Jalen Milroe making a pass to Ja'Cory Brooks in the left corner of the end zone back in spring practice. Of course, Kool-Aid McKinstry was covering on that play. So he works Isaiah Bond to that left corner, has all day to throw, puts the ball in the most perfect spot on the field, on the play. Isaiah Bond gets up there, makes the reception. The rest is history. But what a play designed to where there are three guys you could go to, but you want to work back to what you did in spring practice, getting the ball to the left corner of the end zone. And what a play by Isaiah Bond, creating that separation back there.
Stephen, as we look forward to Saturday, what is the status of Jace McClellan?
Well, right now he's listed as day-to-day. He tweaked a foot in the Iron Bowl. It's been the same foot that's been bothering him throughout the season. Coach Saban mentioned that after the game. It was a 48-hour kind of clearance there to see how is Jace looking there on his foot. So right now he's day-to-day. We'll see how he goes about today's practice and Wednesday's practice before the Tide takes to Atlanta to Mercedes-Benz Stadium to work on some walkthroughs prior to Saturday's game. So Jace is day-to-day. He is the Crimson Tide's leading rusher right now, over 800 yards on the season. Knowing Jace, he'll try to push through to get to play in this game. If not, you look at Jam Miller and Roydell Williams as your 1-2 punch, and then Justice Haynes, a tremendous five-star freshman, native Georgian, Georgia legacy. His dad played at the University of Georgia. He could get some big action here in this matchup if the Tide does not have Jace set to go.
This has turned out to be the epic battle in the SEC and in most regards nationally over the last 6 or 7 seasons. For a long time, Georgia would knock on the door and be oh so close. Of course, we're talking 2017 National Championship game. We're talking 2018 SEC Championship game and another regular season game in 2020. Georgia breaks through, and now Georgia is the hunted. They are the 2-time defending national champion. Bama is the one that's on the prowl and trying to pull off an upset in this one.
Oh, absolutely. Alabama comes into this one, Mark, a 4-point underdog, according to the masses of betting sites out there in Las Vegas, including Circus Sports. Bama, the 4-point dog in this game. And Kirby Smart talked about Sunday, how is his team going to go about neutralizing Dallas Turner, the outstanding pass rusher for Alabama. Turner, 8 sacks on the year, 12 and a half tackles for loss, I believe 12 quarterback hurries for him. But at the same time, you have Chris Braswell, who has had an incredible year across from Turner. Braswell, 8 sacks to his own credit, 10 and a half tackles for loss, 5 quarterback hurries, 3 forced fumbles, a blocked field goal. I mean, Chris Braswell has filled up the stat sheet tremendously this year. And then you have Justin Boydby, 5th-year senior on the defensive line with 5 sacks as well. So while Kirby Smart and his team are gung-ho about trying to stop Dallas Turner, there are other eyeballs to keep your attention on. The big thing for Coach Saban is going to be, how do you take away the receiving duo of Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey? Brock Bowers, who was a top 10, top 15 draft pick when you look at next year's NFL venue, and then Ladd McConkey, who kind of gives you Hunter Renfrow vibes in a sense of he just knows how to get open there on the field with Carson Beck as the quarterback. So different matchups to kind of look at here when you discuss Alabama, Georgia.
Staying with the Alabama offense, just your thoughts about where this Alabama game has progressed, both as a pass offense and a rush offense. You'd mentioned the possible distribution of carries in place of Jace McClellan if he can't take it the distance. The offensive line has obviously had to mature throughout this season, and that's probably where we need to start in regards to just that typical formidable matchup against a Georgia front that obviously has been the best in college football in their championship seasons. Maybe he's taken a step back without that superstar impact, a guy like a Jalen Carter, but still the most talent, the biggest waves of just great defensive studs up front for Georgia presents a huge challenge to that Bama offensive line.
They do, and it was going to be huge for Alabama. Is definitely going back to the left side of the offensive line. That's where Caden Proctor and Jaden Roberts are, and both guys have made tremendous improvement throughout the season. Caden Proctor has gotten better and better since the second half of the Tennessee game. Proctor against Auburn did not allow a sack of Jalen Milroe, did not allow a quarterback hit, really helped Milroe total 259 yards passing, 107 yards rushing. Of course, helped Jace McClellan pick up 66, tough rushing yards there. So Proctor's gotten better ever since they inserted Jaden Roberts, the young man from Houston, Texas, into the lineup at left guard. This front line has taken off. So it's going to be pivotal for the left side of that unit to hold its own, to win some one-on-one battles. You got to win some one-on-ones up front to create run lanes for your backs and protecting Milroe as well. But then also a huge game for Seth McLaughlin at that center position. People forget 2 years ago, he got his first start against Georgia in 2021 in the SEC championship game at center. And he came out there and did an incredible job neutralizing the likes of Jordan Davis, among others, on that defensive front there for Georgia as Alabama got the 41-24 win. So a huge game for McLaughlin. Maybe he can draw off that experience he had in 2021 to really help him out there. But the left side of that offensive line, they've got to win some one-on-one battles here, neutralizing the Georgia front that's going to bring pressure, that's going to try to come after Jalen Milroe, but also keep that run game for Alabama at bay as well. The left side of the offensive line, and Seth McLaughlin snapping the ball, calling the controls there at the center position, going to be a huge game for him as well.
Stephen, you mentioned one-on-one matchups up front. Let's take it to the outside. We've talked a number of times with you about the maturation of this Alabama wide receiver unit. And of course, Isaiah Bond makes the big play against Auburn. Just your thoughts about those matchups and Alabama's ability to make plays downfield.
Going to be a huge game for this receiver unit, Mark. I mean, Jermaine Burton, obviously, he played 2 years at Georgia. won 2 national championships there, knows that program very well, knows Kirby Smart very well. So the emotions running through Jermaine Burton going to be high, but he has to have those under control as he's trying to win a Southeastern Conference title with this Alabama team. Isaiah Bond is from Georgia, Buford High School. He knows how big this matchup is, for him as he's grown to be the number 2 guy. But guys like Kobe Prentice, Kendrick Law, this is a huge matchup for them. What can they do in this game to make a mark, to make an impact? A freshman in Jalen Hale. This could be a big matchup for him should he get on the field. You look at guys like Amari Niblack at tight end. This could be a big game for him as he is a matchup nightmare out there on the field. I know he's been targeted about 4 to 5 times per game, but while people look at Brock Bowers as a matchup problem, Amari Niblack is a matchup problem. Can he have a say, in this game? CJ Dupree, I know he's been used primarily more so of a blocker this season, but he's got hands. He can make plays in the passing game. What will Tommy Reese do to get him the ball? So there's a lot of matchups that Alabama could exploit on the field. I understand your main 2 guys. You look at Jermaine Burton and Isaiah Bond, but there's a litany of guys that Alabama could get involved. The question is, who could get the hot hand early and who could mesh the best here with what Tommy Reese is going to want to call?
Folks, please subscribe to our SEC channel. You may be watching this segment here on the SEC channel or on the main channel. So the link's in the description section of all the videos. So please lock in with what we've got there. And of course, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Stephen M. Smith, Touchdown Alabama, in my own words, is the show. 6:30 Central Time right here on YouTube, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Looking at the defense, Stephen, and again, we will put the Iron Bowl in its own category. Some things happen in that game, and especially in that stadium, that you can't account for. But in absence of a passing attack, Auburn ran the football, especially in the first half, pretty much at will against this Bama defense. So maybe that a concern going into Georgia?
Well, it is from the simple fact that, number one, Deontay Austin was not 100% healthy. Your captain at linebacker still was dealing with some things there from his ankle. He was probably at best maybe 85, 90%, wasn't full at 100% go. I think this week Deontay will be much better, at that spot there against Georgia. But I think the main thing is going to be having your run fits done correctly. There were several times where guys were just out of position, whether they ran themselves out of position, whether they allowed themselves to be blocked out of position, not being in phase in those run gaps. That is going to be pivotal here this week against Georgia because the Bulldogs run some of the same concepts that Auburn ran, whether it's off tackle running, whether it's finding ways from the perimeter, bouncing runs outside, whether they're pulling offensive linemen around to do counter blocks. It's some similar things that Auburn did just in the Iron Bowl that Georgia will look at. So guys like Kool-Aid McKinstry, if you look at your outside linebackers, Dallas Turner, Chris Braswell, your inside guys, Deontay Austin, Tresman Marshall, and Jihad Campbell, when he goes out there, and even Kendrick Blackshire, you have to stick your nose into your gap and take on an offensive lineman, shed him off, and attack the football. There were a lot of plays in the Iron Bowl, Mark, that guys ran their way out of their gap. Coach Saban saw that, visibly frustrated there on the sideline because, like you mentioned, Auburn only had 6 pass attempts. Peyton Thorne, they could not establish a passing game. But Peyton Thorne designed quarterback runs, zone re-keeps, Jarquez Hunter on a lot of those off-tackle, up-the-middle plays. They had success where they were able to get either Alabama blocked properly or Alabama helped them out by guys running themselves completely out of the play. So this week, you've got to be in your run discipline.
Stephen, I'm going to hit you up with this. 1 or 2 players that we need to keep an eye on.
Well, first one on defense here, you got to keep an eye on Caleb Downs for Alabama. He's going to have a huge assignment in this game. Downs, another Georgia native school, and that he may have the task of being over the top when it comes down to bracketing Brock Bowers. You're going to have 2 guys on him. You cannot have Bowers beat you by himself. So Caleb Downs is going to play a huge role of that over the top taken away of Brock Bowers. So that's defensively. Offensively, I got to keep your eye on Jam Miller at running back. He could have a huge role in this game, not just from a run of the ball standpoint and him catching the ball at the backfield, but he's probably one of the more underrated pass blockers on this team. Can take on a blitz, can stick a guy in the backfield, giving Jalen Milroe time to make that decision whether I'm throwing the football or running the ball. So keep your eyes on Jam Miller.
Before we get to these matchups, we've got Fran Brown, defensive backs coach, who has accepted the head coaching position at Syracuse. This is nothing new to Kirby Smart or really good elite football programs that have to lose coaches while preparing for big postseason games.
Yeah, I mean, it's something the team has been through before. Last time, I guess, would be Dan Lanning when he took the Oregon job. Only thing we still don't know yet about Fran is whether or not he'll remain with the team, through the bowl/playoffs, whichever the case it may be. But whatever he decides to do, I mean, Georgia will be just fine.
We don't normally come across a situation where a position coach is elevated all the way to getting a Power 5 head coaching job. Was everybody somewhat surprised?
Not really. I mean, Fran has had a very good reputation, for years. He's from that area. He's from New Jersey. He's done a great job recruiting that area for Georgia, and that's what they need. I mean, we talked before on this show here that it's all about the Jimmies and Joes, and he knows how to get them, at least from the area where he's from anyhow, and that's what Syracuse needs to get his program back on track.
Turning to Saturday, Anthony, the status of Ladd McConkey and Brock Bowers.
Well, Brock Bowers.
Anybody else?
Yeah, Brock Bowers is going to be fine. He probably could have played this past Saturday. Ladd McConkey, a little bit more of a question mark. I think he may play some, but the ankle is still an issue, a little bit of an issue with him. So we have to kind of wait and see. Ra Thomas, another wide receiver, we don't think his foot will be ready to go yet. And on the defense, well, let me go back to offensive line. Tate Ratledge, or starting right guard, we think he'll be able to go, which would be a nice, boost back for the offensive line. And on defense, Jamon Dumas Johnson, has the broken bone in his forearm. He won't be back yet. Backup cornerback Julian Humphrey, collarbone, shoulder blade issue. He will not be back yet. Smile Munn has been a little sore, kind of beat up, but I mean, it's nothing that's going to keep him from playing in the ball game.
So Stetson Bennett has been the guy the last two times against the Tide in major games. Of course, when I was opening up, I just skipped right over the 21 national championship. Too many of these games to keep track of. But, Carson Beck, a much different type of quarterback without the quarterback run in play. Not that he's completely immobile, but how do you see this passing attack and how it's developed?
The passing attack has been great, I think, all season long. I mean, one of Carson's strengths is he's got several strengths. I mean, one just starts with his arm. He's got one of the strongest arms, I think, in the SEC. But he's so quick about releasing the football. I mean, you look at the numbers against him. When teams blitz, that's when he does his best work. And I'm sure Alabama's going to do whatever it can to put as much pressure on him. But that could be playing right into Carson's hands a little bit. You mentioned his legs a second there ago. He's actually started to make more use of them the past few games. He had a couple big first-round runs in these last two ball games. So, like I said, he's not totally immobile back there. I mean, it's not like he's going to be doing zone read runs or anything like that. But if an opportunity presents itself, he's going to take off.
I don't know that we can glean a whole lot from the matchup Alabama had against Auburn, but both teams, for whatever reason, big rivalry games and playing at Jordan-Hare Stadium seems to haunt a lot of opponents, had their issues against Auburn, but in particular, Bama could not stop the ground game, even in the absence of an Auburn passing attack. And Georgia knows what that is. Auburn's had one of the worst passing attacks in college football, but can run the ball down just about anybody's throats. And they did it to the Tide last week. Yeah,
I mean, that's like you said, I don't think you can take both of those games and just kind of throw them out the window. You'll see entirely different teams. I think show up in Atlanta Saturday afternoon, but Alabama, and Georgia too, to an extent. I mean, their effort, the job they do against the run is going to be one of the keys in this ball game. I mean, Kendall Milton has done a great job these past 3 weeks for Georgia, running has 41 carries for 359 yards, 5 touchdowns in the last 3 games. And I know that's something Alabama is very concerned about for this. Where on the flip side, Georgia had its issues with Georgia Tech last week. a lot of their, the Yellow Jackets had a lot of yards by their quarterback. Haynes King had a bunch of yards on the zone read, which, when you look at, Jalen Milroe, he doesn't really do a lot of read runs, but again, he's one of the most athletic quarterbacks in the entire country. He's one of the fastest quarterbacks in the entire country, and he's going to be the key to whatever success Alabama has on Saturday.
Bama running back Chase McClellan, a bit questionable for Saturday, should make it a go, but he got nicked up against Auburn in particular. Any matchups that you see on either side of the ball? There's just so much talent, and both teams are generally peaking. Now, Alabama, of course, needed a miracle, so they weren't peaking last week, that's for sure. Auburn outplayed them, but they pulled it out. But do you see any matchups that favor either team decisively?
Well, Brock Bowers, I think, is pretty much a huge factor. I mean, both for Georgia, obviously, and Alabama. Alabama's got some good linebackers, but I'm not sure if anybody in the country really has anybody can play against Brock Bowers one-on-one, slow him down. He's proved time and time again over the years, and if he's back even close to 100%, that's going to be a big key for Georgia. Not just what he can do on the field, but I mean, Alabama's going to have to pay attention and know exactly where he is on the field every time he lines up, and that could open some things up for the receivers to make good plays.
Georgia's so used to winning and winning championships, both in the SEC and nationally now. I don't know that they're even contemplating. I know that the team isn't, but I'm talking about the fan base contemplating a loss, and if they'll still make the playoff. But I guess that's what we're here for, is a loss to Alabama. Are people still confident that Georgia gets in?
I don't know. I'm personally not so confident, but again, because you don't really know what the committee is going to do when it comes crunch time. I mean, their job is to get the 4 best teams in the country in the playoffs. Now, I know in the past they have said, well, we want these teams to be a conference champion. But if Georgia or Michigan, whoever, if they lose the conference, championship game, and the committee still thinks they're one of the best 4 teams, and I think you go that way. But it'll be interesting to see. I mean, there's the committee, I know this year with so many unbeaten teams still left, a lot of great one-loss teams. If the favorites all win this week, it's going to make for some interesting decisions that's going to be made. But I've seen different sides of the equation. People, Georgia wins obviously if they lose. Some people like me don't think they will, but you've got others. So Kirk Herbstreit, I know, was harping on the fact that he thinks Georgia should be in regardless of what happens. So we'll see.
Do you have a thought on who you believe are the 4 best teams in the country?
I won't sound like a SEC homer here, but I think Georgia, Alabama are 2 of them. I think Michigan is 1, and I think Oregon is the other.